Students, to get started today in Excel, as we first learn the basics and then we'll start on the starting Excel document, I need you to actually open up Excel. So go down to the bottom left and find the little window button and type in Excel, and then open up a blank Excel document. And the objective of this first portion lesson that we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning the basics of the mouse function and a few other basics in this lesson. The mouse is a little tricky because the mouse could change what it looks like according to where you click. For instance, right now, the plus of my mouse looks like a black cross or a black plus with arrows on the end. But then when I move it over here in this corner, it doesn't have the arrows. It looks like a black plus without the arrows. When I move it over here, it looks like a white plus. So we're going to learn about what all these pluses mean and how to use our mouse appropriately. So to get started, whenever my mouse is a white plus, that's a selection tool, meaning I'm selecting something. So I'm going to place my selection tool on this first section, which is a cell. When a row and a column come together, because Excel is made out of columns and rows. When a row and a column come together, they make a cell, like we have here, cell A1. And whenever I select a cell, I'm using the white plus to select a cell. So I'm going to select this cell and I'm going to type in a day of the week as I get started. You're going to notice as I type it in the cell, also it will show it here in case there's not enough space in the cell, so you can see it in this what we call the formula bar. So it's there as well. Now, I want to type the rest of the days of the week, but I don't want to go and type Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to have Excel use its intelligence and its common sense to help me out. So what happens is you click on this cell and you move your mouse to the bottom right-hand corner on this tiny little green box until your mouse turns into a black plus. This is called the fill handle, and what it does is it fills things in automatically according to what it thinks you're trying to do. So I'm going to drag it across these other cells, and as I do, you see it's starting to fill in font. When I let go, it's going to fill in the days of the week for me, because the fill handle automatically fills things in according to what it thinks you're doing. Perfect. Now, I want these to all be centered, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make sure I align them and vertically and horizontally. So you not be able to tell that well. So we're going to learn how to do another mouse function. When my mouse turns into a plus that only has the arrows on the left and the right, that means it's a tool that's letting me move the size of the columns or the rows. Like right here, now it's doing the opposite of up and down, and here it's side to side. So in this cell D, in cell D1, the word Wednesday is too big for the cell space I have. So I can come here and in between the D and the E and get my mouse to look like that plus with the arrows on the left and the right and slide it. There's also a function called the auto fit. So instead of me trying to like figure out where it's supposed to be, I can just double click between D and E and it will go ahead and do that for me. What I want you to do right now is I want you to open up the Excel document. I want you to type in the word Sunday. I want you to use the fill handle and drag it like I did, and then make sure to go between each column on the top and double click like I'm doing to get them sized appropriately. So go ahead and pause and get this far as I've gotten right now. Okay, after you've paused and you've come back and have gotten this far, we're going to look at another function with the mouse. So we talked about the white plus is the selection tool. We talked about if I come between the columns or the rows, it's the move tool where I can move my columns or rows up or down. And then we also talked about the fill handle. So there's one other mouse function we need to learn about, and that is when I'm selected on a cell, if I put my mouse on any one of these lines, it's going to turn into a black plus with arrows. That's the move tool. So for instance, I'm going to use my white mouse, click in the middle of a cell, and select all these days of the week. Let's say I want to move these down 3 rows. So then I grab my mouse and I move it until it turns into the move tool, which is a black plus with arrows on the end. I click, I drag, and I let go where I want it to go. And when I let go, it pastes it. So it cuts and pastes, it moves it. So I could grab and put it wherever I want, as you see I'm doing. But then you're going to notice because these cells haven't been appropriately customized to the necessary space I need, I'll have to go and double click on these ones as well, match these ones up if I did move them. But you have learned now the 4 functions of the mouse inside of Excel. You have the white plus, where it's your select tool. You have, if you are on a selected cell and you click on and you put your mouse over one of the borders, it's the move tool. You also have the fill handle that automatically fills in information. And then we have the column and width, height adjuster tool, where your mouse is like this. So let's show you a little more of what we can do in Excel. And I'm going to go back to where I was. So I'm going to highlight this section, put my mouse on one of the borders and move it back to the top. I want you to now just randomly type in numbers everywhere in the first 3 rows in every column. So you see I'm pulling numbers randomly in the first 3 rows all the way to each column in all columns. I'm going to type total here, and then I'm going to click on total and come over to the fill bucket right here and give it a color. And I want you to see how to use the fill handle even more. The next thing you're going to do is I want you to click on this button up here called Auto Sum, but make sure you've selected cell I2. So when you've selected I2, come up and click on Auto Sum. And it's putting in a formula. And what it's saying is it wants to sum the cells A2 through H2, so all the information in there. So I'm going to hit enter and say, yeah, do that math. And that quickly gave me that number of 52,908. Now it doesn't look like, let's say we want to make it look like money. So it doesn't look like money yet. So I'm going to give it a dollar sign. Now it looks like money. Now with that number, let's say I wanted to do the same thing where I wanted in this cell and then also in this cell to have the total of all these numbers. So what I'm going to do is instead of me going and hitting auto sum again and going through all that formula, I'm just going to grab the fill handle and drag it down, and it's going to copy that same formula for me. So as you can see in this cell, it has A2 to H2, and on this one it's A3 to H3, so it automatically knows what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to drag it one more time. And it did the math for me as well, according to cells A4 to H4. So you can see it's 2, 3, 4, column A, and it does the math for me. That's the beauty of the fill handle. You put something in and then it fills it in for you. Now, let's say one of these numbers change, like this cell E2 change, and it should only be a 1. Watch what this number does. Since I've done a math equation, it's going to do the equation according to whatever numbers are in there. It doesn't matter if I change the numbers. Let's make this one a 2. And you can see there's a big change there. Make sure that you pause the video and that you've caught up this far, where you put in the days of the week, all the numbers, you put in your color for the total, and then you did the math equation here, and you got your answers. Because now that we've finished our document, we're going to make it look more pretty. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come and click up here on my titles. I'm going to highlight them all. Inside of the Home tab, you have a section which is made for making your styles of your cells so they look better. And they're pre-formatted for you. So for the heading, I'm going to give it a heading 1 style, and you're going to notice it changes all the headings. Now the problem is it did mess up my column width. So I'm going to have to go through and double click and fix all my column widths. But now it looks a lot better with that heading style. You can tell they're headings. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight with, so again, my mouse is white. When I highlight, I'm going to highlight all these cells and turn them into the money symbol. Now I don't like how it has all these pennies. So I'm actually going to get rid of decimals, and I'm going to decrease a decimal with this button. So now it's just pure dollars. All right, looking pretty good. Another thing I want to do though is I want to select all the cells and give them a border. So up on the top, you can see this drop-down arrow gives them a border, and I'm going to give them all a thick outside border around my whole box. So now I have a big, thick outside border around my whole box, and I like how my document's looking much better. Now there's one other thing I'm going to change, and that is I want to make all of my totals in a different color. So I'm going to come here and say, let's make them yellow as well. Boom, perfect. And there we go. I have my document showing my days in the week with all of this amount of money. And then I can see the total I made throughout each week. So if I wanted to label something week 1, I could come over to this column and right click and say insert, or I could come over here to another button called the insert button and insert some cells, like a row right there. And then I could say total and week 1. And again, if you need a pause Get all this in, go ahead and pause, week 3. But one thing I want you to notice is that now the format's all messed up and I got to fix it all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the format painter just like we used in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to click on Sunday. That's the format I want to copy. Then I'm going to click Format Painter. Then the next thing I click on is going to copy that format. So I'm going to click on Total, and it's going to copy that format. I'm going to do the same thing for these sections over here in column A. So Format Painter on cell B2, and then copy that over, and I can do it to multiple ones where it copies it over to all of them. Now, my problem is still running into is that border I need to get rid of. So to get rid of that border, I'm actually going to have to highlight all this area again, go to my border and hit no border and get rid of the border. Then I'll have to highlight it all over again and choose that same border. But then look, oh my gosh, I messed this up because now this does not have that cell style. So I can use the format painter, or I could just highlight it all and go back to cell styles and hit heading 1 again, and it will fix it for me. We are now finished with part 1, so make sure to go up and hit File and save the document to your Strand 3 Excel folder. And then after you have saved this document, refer back to the next video. And in the second video, we're going to go over the second assignment of starting Excel and going into a few more steps that are more than basic.